Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. That's my guy.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host, coming to you live shortly after the Chargers win in Nashville, 27-20. Extremely weird day. Lots of things to take away. The Houston Texans are potentially about to do the Chargers a big favor here, so a lot of playoff implications as we continue to get down the road here, as always. And joining me today to recap this game is my good friend Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing this morning?
Doing very well. The game could have been a bit more fun, I guess, or at least positive, but the Chargers won, and that's all I wanted. Now, I wanted them to win. That was one condition. The second one condition was they get out healthy. That didn't happen, but at least they won today.
Yeah, at least they won today. We'll talk about the health part. We'll talk about some of the other stuff. The Titans only had 7 possessions because of the punt return and because of the interception return. So very weird game overall that looks a lot closer than it probably should have been, but a win is the win regardless there. Before we get started, I think it's only right that we start sending some thoughts and prayers out to the Henley family. Obviously, the situation with Deon's family has been well documented, but playing a football game 2 days after your brother gets shot and killed is no easy task, just on a human level. I think, the broadcast highlighted that he decided to play because he wanted to honor his brother and because his teammates wanted to honor his brother. They kind of talked about the teammates lifting him up this week. So just a horrible situation to try and, deal with football, and let alone come out and have a sack, have a pass breakup, a couple other key tackles. So we're going to talk a lot about the way that the defense played today, where the offense played today, the wins, the playoff situation, and everything like that. On a human level, man, like I feel so badly for Deon Henley dealing with yet another, step back in this situation, and big credit to him. And, just sending thoughts and prayers to Deon and the Henley family at this time. I can't imagine what that must be like right now.
Yeah, me neither. Not just the recent situation, but as you highlighted, the entire year has been difficult for him, either personally with the flu and the weight loss, or the everything with the family, and of course this most recent thing. And I would have, totally understood if he did not play this game. I also understand why you go out and play this game. Yeah. And Deon Henley is someone who always brings this amount of energy, fun, you name it. After that sack, you could just tell in the most nonverbal way, or at least we couldn't hear maybe if he was saying something, how emotional he was after he got that sack. It was a very touching moment. And again, with Henley, it's usually very positive and fun.
Yeah.
But you really felt what he was going through after that and during that moment. So shout out to him for even just being out there, had some good plays today, at least. So yeah, it was, no matter what, then we'll get to the game, as you said, like that heart has to go out to him for even being out there.
Yeah, and I think that the Chargers social media page obviously tweeted out the clip of the sack with the blue heart, and regardless of his brother's decisions, it still is the loss of a family member. It still is the loss of a brother who, I don't know about their relationship, but the rest of us, when we lose a family member, we get to call out from work, and we get to have time off, and we get to grieve, and Deon did not get to have that time. And obviously, football can be an escape for a lot of people. And I assume that Deon is thinking that same way. So regardless of the brother's decisions, man, I just feel for the family. I feel for Deon trying to be able to play through all of this is just, it's tough on a human level. And I'm just glad, like you mentioned, he had some really positive moments today, helped, influence this game. And he can kind of, hold his head up and feel like he did honor his brother in his own way.
Yeah, definitely. Games like this, all the ones you can remember throughout history of, someone has lost an individual and played well or had some big moment. They always get me in the feels. They always make me very emotional, because I can't imagine going out there and doing any of this. I could not. If I lost one of my siblings, I'm not at work. I'm not going to work. I'm not here on the pod. I'm not doing any of this.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you're paying me for it. I'm not going to be out there. Forget it. I'm a mess. So for him to be out there and be any kind of frame or state of mind to do anything positive was a miracle.
Yeah, even if, but like any family loss is tough to deal with it. Whether it's a cousin, a grandma, a sibling, like just on a human level, it's tough for me to kind of wrap my head around a human being playing through this. But Deon said he was going to honor his brother the way that he played today, and I think mission accomplished there. So
Yeah,
we'll get into some of these other takeaways here. Obviously, life happens and things like that, but big shout out to Deon for getting through this. Before we get to our full takeaways, have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at PrizePicks, the best and easiest way to consume daily fantasy sports. Boy, I sure hope you are using the Justin Herbert rushing statistics to your advantage right now. PrizePicks, obviously gives you guys and us the ability to kind of emotionally hedge in certain situations, but the rushing statistics for Herbert remain low. You can also use the passing stats, passing touchdowns, whatever you want to do over on PrizePicks, which offers the ability to stack your lineup, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. If you want to pick more Justin Herbert stats, rush yards, passing yards, touchdowns, whatever, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks. Go download the app today. Use the code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Okay, Tyler, lots of things to dive into. The injuries, the quarterback play, the defense, the special teams. Where do you want to start with this recap? Again, Chargers winning 27-20, in a game that really should not have been as close as it was.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to start negative. I don't care if that's a win. The Chargers are lucky. They're lucky they played the Titans today. They played a team that was intentionally basically tanking, who has traded away their players and has been selling. They're missing their franchise best player. They're missing Arden Key and other players as well. Half their other roster is on IR. If you look at their depth chart, it's pretty much terrible. And the Chargers are so lucky they played the worst team in football or the second worst team in football today. They played the third worst team. They probably lose this game. This was a very disappointing 2/3 of the game, I would say, for them. And yes, the outcome is a win. We'll get to all the positives. But you watch a game like this, you watch a game like against the Dolphins, and you go, I don't know if this team's really it. And I have been giving them a bit of a benefit of the doubt. Now, they did lose Alt today and Hart. Yes, that changes things. You lose players in the game. It does change things. But throughout the first, 8 weeks, especially when things were, international of this and then East Coast and then back in the East Coast, injuries can't settle. Give them a bit of a pass, right? But this was a team that had a mini bye. They had more than a week and plenty of time to get this figured out, to play a team that was not very good on their interim head coach that has been selling players. And they are so lucky that they are just a little bit more talented and have this guy named Justin Herbert and a Derwin James and some of these players, because they, frankly, for most of it, other than the defense, although I wish the Titans, if they kept running the football, maybe something would have been different. It looked like they were just walked up and down the field in terms of coaching. I was extremely disappointed, even though the Chargers won this game, because it just tells me that this group does not have it yet. And I was hoping that this would be kind of the starting point of them to be like, okay, we've got it. After the Vikings game, you survived. You can breathe. Okay, here we go. And yes, they did win. They go play the Steelers next week. I don't feel any better about that game than I did 4 hours ago. So we will talk about all the positives. They won. There were plenty of positives. But the overall takeaway for me is that they are lucky they played the Titans, because we are not talking about these positives and them winning this game if they really play anyone else other than maybe the Jets and the Raiders.
Maybe a couple other teams. There are some bad teams in the NFL, right? But the overall point stands.
Yeah.
If I were a Titans fan, dude, I would be so mad at the Wildcat stuff. Like motioning Cam Ward out from under center to direct snap it like 3 or 4 different times. Cam Ward left definitely some meat on the bone today. Like there was the 3rd and 13th throw where he kind of steps up to the left a little bit. And then just like his feet are like a little wonky and just leaves the ball 3 yards short of Elik Ayomaynor for a first down. The run defense continues to be a struggle. Tony Pollard had the best day of his season so far. Tyjae Spears had some good runs. they were consistently getting 4, 5, 6 yards a pop. The first 2 runs went for like 28 yards. So the Titans, I feel like they just did not really have a great plan. Getting down to the goal line, which we'll talk about, it was a great play by a couple players, but just the overall coaching plan for the Titans did not make much sense to me. So I feel like the Titans don't really have a ton of talent, and then also just like the coaching was not great. Mike McCoy, in classic Mike McCoy fashion, challenges a very obvious play that takes away a timeout on a first down. Just very poor clock management there. So it's a lot of the same issues for the Chargers that we've been talking about that popped up today. The run defense, the special teams has gotten to a point where we're like back to 2020 levels of bad. Jameer DK is a great returner, potentially like first team all-pro kick returner. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
But you give up 2 or 3 big punt returns, 2 or 3 big kick returns. You have at least 4 bad snaps from Rick Lovato, and none of them technically costed the Chargers points. But one of them was almost a punt block. Another one was almost a situation where J.K. Scott, had to kind of make a great hold on a field goal. So that's a major issue. More missed tackles, everything like that. Cameron Dicker kicked a ball out of bounds, which gave the Titans an easy field goal drive to end the first half. It's a lot of these details that last year were not problems for the Chargers. The tackling remains an issue. They had multiple chances at Tony Pollard behind the line of scrimmage that they were not able to, bring him down. And Tony Pollard's a good running back. I frankly wouldn't mind him on the Chargers with the deadline on Tuesday. Sure. But it's a lot of similar issues that the Chargers have been popping up. And, when they're on it, you have games like last week where the team just looks great and they're inspired and everybody is playing well. This is the second time on the road against a bad team who the Chargers should be definitely, clicking a little bit more on. And again, there's definitely some injuries and things like that. But there are some issues on this team that Justin Herbert is able to overcome, but he was hit 11 times again today because of the offensive line issues. And eventually, these hits are it's gonna cause a problem. And, the special teams is eventually going to cause a problem. And the missed tackles eventually is going to cause a problem. So it didn't today. But like you said, if they play like this against the better teams that they have coming up, it's going to be tough. You have 2 very important games against the Steelers and the Jaguars in the next couple of weeks. And if you play like you did today against those 2 teams, you will lose. And then your playoff hopes are essentially gone.
Yeah. So, in terms of all of that, the missed tackles, the defense played, I think they were the best group, I think, overall in terms of general execution. They start down. They give up 14 points, but none of that's their fault. It's the pick 6 and the punt return for a touchdown. So I think overall they played pretty well. I think the last couple of weeks have been pretty solid for them. Could be better. But again, like they played the Titans. They were very lucked out by who they were playing in this one. The special teams for me, it's tough. So there are some isolated things that are just not anyone's, like Ryan Ficken's fault in particular. Like Rick Lovato is the long snapper that they have, and he's just terrible. I have not seen a special teams performance that bad in a while from an individual player, because I don't know. I'm not an NFL player. I'm not a long snapper. I could never do any of this. But the number of errors from a long snapper in one game, I don't recall a game that I've ever seen in my entire life where 5 snaps were bad in this one. I don't think he
at least 4. At least 4. The fact that it's even a discussion, it could be 4 or 5 is ridiculous. J.K. Scott had to reach down at his ankles for 2 of them on punts, and both of them were almost blocked.
Yeah, right. And that's the other thing, they were almost blocked. The one in the end zone in particular, that there was an offsides anywhere, whatever it was. I mean, I thought that was just going to be blocked in the end zone. Here we go. But thankfully, J.K. Scott honestly had a pretty good day, all things considered. So good for him. But this Chargers special teams group, there's a lot of turnover with this group. There were 12 players last year who played 150 special team snaps for the Chargers or more, if you don't include Dicker and Scott, who are just obviously the kicker and the punter. And 9 of those players aren't playing right now for the Chargers. They're either Deon Henley, who's not playing special teams anymore, really, or they're not on the team anymore, or they're on IR. And that doesn't count all the different changes of different players that return to this year, too. So 9 of your 12 players from last year are not playing, whether that's a Josh Harris or a Dean Leonard, for a variety of reasons. Or so it's just, I hope it's going to get fixed. But even last year with, hey, this player's in, this player's out, whoever it is, it felt like Ryan Ficken was always able to plug that player in. They knew the thing, they were ready to go, and all was good. This year, they had a ton of turnover, and it doesn't seem like anyone's really doing all that great. I think last I checked, as of last week, Marlo Wax was 4th in the NFL in special teams tackles. We've had some good Aboigbe moments. Murphy looked good, then they got rid of him. So it's just, this special teams group it's been rough. And I think it's a whole group all around blame for anyone. But the returners, after one good week of returning, really, they don't look that great. The coverage is not great. Thankfully, there are holds or blocks in the backs that have been saving the Chargers that are getting called. But other than Cameron Dicker, the field goal kicker, for the most part, it's been pretty rough.
Yeah, it has been pretty rough. And they're just handing teams points at this point. Like there's moments in every single game where I'm just like, it used to be like, oh, the Chargers are punting, like, maybe I'll go to the bathroom or whatever. I don't have to be concerned about this or kickoff, whatever. But now it's gotten to the point where, you're trying to come back against the Colts and you give up an 80-yard touchdown, 2 plays later, a 10-point lead becomes a 17-point lead. Today against the Titans, you have a pick six, and then you go and have your own touchdown, and then punt return touchdown, and you're down 14-7 on the road against the Tennessee Titans. There might have been 10-7, 10-14, or whatever the case may be. So you're handing teams points, and we'll see. I think we probably should have a discussion at some point today or on Tuesday about like playoffs and where this team is heading.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a very real chance the Chargers have to play a road playoff game again. And if you're heading to Buffalo or Baltimore or Pittsburgh or wherever, and you give up a big punt return or a big kickoff return, that can lose you your playoff game, and then your season's over. So Ryan Ficken has earned a lot of benefit of the doubt for me. Heading into the season, it was like, well, we don't really know what the new kickoffs are like. You have all this turnover and everything like that, but there's a lot of earned equity, and Jim Harbaugh kept him around because he earned the right to be the Chargers special teams coach. And right now it's just not going well. We talked about the punt return and stuff like that, but the kickoff returns, again, were horrible today. Keandre Lambert-Smith was back there because, it had been Naeem Hines. They released him, and the Titans were kicking away from Darius Davis, kicking to Keandre Lambert-Smith, and it was bad again today. And you're starting the drives at the 20-yard line while the Titans are starting at the 40-yard line like every single time. So I know we're kind of rambling and ranting about some of the bad today, but the Titans are a very bad team. And this is a situation where the Chargers, if they had just been maybe prepared a little bit more, I guess, I don't really know. Maybe a 27-20 win is more like a 34-7 win, because the Titans are truly that bad. And this should not have been a game that was a one-possession game, in my opinion.
No, not at all. And so we've got to address these things, as much as some people like to live in fantasy land and, everything should be sunshine and rainbows and sniff your own farts sort of deal. But Jim DK, he's great. Like I had not paid attention to him. Like, he's awesome. So I got to give him some credit for being good too.
Sure.
But I mean, Chargers averaged, 24 yards per kick return. He averages 29.3. Chargers average 4.5 yards per punt return. They average 32.7. Granted, that's 67 yards on one play, but still, it's just things like that, or things like the missed tackles, all these things that we're mentioning that are these like minor things. You go play Buffalo on the road, that matters. These small things do matter. So we'll get to the positives. I think that's the next thing we're going to cover. There's a lot of positives, but in a game like this, it's just disappointing to see that the same things are happening. Yeah. Like, okay, everybody close your eyes and imagine bad special teams. You can't protect at all. You're having trouble running and there's missed tackles. Which game are you thinking of?
Several of them.
I'm pretty sure it's most of them, despite the fact that they won 6 games this year, which is, again, it's great. But you're thinking of a lot of games. So the fact that that continues to be a problem is a problem.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are concerning because we were hoping that this team would take a step forward this season, and maybe, you know, you and I never expected Super Bowl, that this would be the Super Bowl season. We were expecting it at like, hey, maybe you have an off chance of hosting a playoff game, but the expectation should be to win a playoff game, given where this team was at last season. And they've taken some steps there. There are certainly some things that are happening that I think, you know, should be encouraging, but at the same time, you know, one of the biggest reasons we were excited about the Jim Harbaugh first season is that they handled the business against any team that was worse than them. And it was clean. And maybe you have like a little sluggish start or whatever. You know, you and I mentioned on Tuesday, like, hey, maybe this game would be kind of like a Saints game from last season where, you know, it's like 9-3 at halftime, but then it ends up being, you know, like 27-6 or whatever that game was. And it just never really felt like the Chargers could pull away, in part because of the offensive line injuries, in part because of the mistakes and things like that. So I think it's just a standard where we expect this team led by this coaching staff to play up to their potential against a bad team. And that did not really happen today outside of Mr. Justin Patrick Herbert, who himself was not great all day either.
Yeah, it was not great. That first stare down the receiver pick six was not great. I think he generally played pretty well after that. I think there's only one true other, bad play, which is the throw behind McConkey. But I thought he was pretty good overall. But
yeah,
pick six again to open the game, essentially. Thankfully, the first one last week didn't count. Not great there, but overall, it's just fine. You have up here the power surge. Yeah, we cannot call it the bolt bump or the charger charge or the Flava Flay or whatever we're calling it. Like, forget it. It's power surge. Sounds great. If you want to go with beer run, that's fine. It's potentially temporary. If they get married, fine. We can call it that.
If they get married, it's beer run forever.
It's beer run for sure. But power surge is fine. Send any other option, and I probably won't like it as much. But anyway,
yeah,
Herbert the rusher, who has, as Steven and I were talking before the show, he's passed his own career high for scramble yards. He's tied it for rushing yards. I don't know. You math it up. Point is, it's only 9 games and he's there. He's got a long way to go. Whenever he passes it or ties it or whatever, he's got a long season ahead of him to keep padding those stats. And man, believe it or not, calling intentional runs and opportunities for Herbert to run are very successful. It's frustrating. And so that was Herbert's first rushing touchdown of the season. It was.
Was it?
I think he had one that was called back once. But anyway, the point is, I can't believe that's his first, not that it was a designed run, but the rollout was designed for Herbert for a touchdown this year. But it worked, which is fantastic. So he had the 2-point conversion. We know that. I love the...
It was his first rushing touchdown of the year. Okay.
Which is crazy. But again, look, we've been asking for him to do this more. And it's not like the scrambles are the scrambles. That's Herbert. He's been doing that. But the intentionally called runs, we've been hoping for more of those. And they look really good today. So against the Steelers in particular next week, call a few. Please don't shy away from this. I thought that he had 9 carries, 57 yards and a touchdown today. Was it 3 power surges at least in this game? All successful. It's unstoppable. That works for them. Herbert, I mean, geez, trucking. If you didn't know who Jalen Harrell was from our preview show, the guy who ran over. So he can come back with the team if you want to.
Yeah.
But Herbert was awesome. It fires up everybody, fired up Thule and Darius Davis and everybody. It just, those plays matter, not just from a success perspective, which it is very successful, it seems, but just from an energy perspective. You are hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are going to take over your stadium, and that group is hot after beating the Colts today. Those fans are going to be loud. These things that Herbert does that quiets a crowd or energizes your own home crowd, these need to happen next week.
Yeah, I think, we've obviously seen a Herbert versus Pittsburgh game previously, but the rushing today, it felt like it not only energized the team on like that specific play, him running over Harrell was awesome. But it to me, it saved the game. Like the first half, the offense was fine. They were still able to move some things through the air, and there was some really cool moments from Oronde Gadsden, a couple great moments from Quentin Johnston today. But it did feel like the offense was a little clunky. And again, some of that is Joe Alt and Bobby Hart leaving to injury. But I think the rushing saved the game today. And it felt like he was a little timid leaving the first, in the first half. And so there were a couple moments where Ross Tucker was, a little critical of Justin Herbert for not getting out of the pocket earlier. And I think some of that is fair. I think there are definitely moments in each game where Herbert can pull the ripcord out a little bit earlier and go get you, 6-7 yards scrambling. And last week against the Vikings, he was very quick to pull the ripcord. Today, it took him a little bit. So I think he's still trying to figure out like what exactly he wants to be from a scrambling perspective. Like the sack he took when Patterson was blocking Cedric Gray, I thought was a really good example of like somebody who's just not 100% comfortable scrambling all the time. There are instances where those become, first downs, and we saw it several times today where he was able to take off and go. The last rushing design rush, I guess really was like the first design rush where they bring in the quote unquote goon squad, which I don't love that, honestly.
Get with the times, everybody. Goon means something different now.
Yeah. I mean, Greg Roman doesn't know about slang and stuff like that, but so they bring in Tucker Fisk, Scott Matlock, and Oronde Gadsden, and they do a design rollout, and he runs immediately. So the Ravens just did this last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, with Tyler Huntley. It's a Raven staple where they are selling a run to one way and you boot out and then you get the first. I thought it was an obvious first down, by the way. I don't understand why that was like reviewed and stuff like that. But I think the more that Herbert can run, which it seems counterintuitive to say, hey, this guy who's getting hit all the time, let's run him more. But I think there's a big difference in when he can initiate the contact and he's the one making the decision versus like, hey, man, he could take a shot to the ribs here from somebody or whatever. So I think the running really does. It just makes the offense so much easier. And I think today it saved the game potentially with how he was running.
Yeah, I think it did too. I think there are points in several games where you can look at that run and go, okay, that's when they either won it or when they turned things around. And then so far, I mean, every game, every win, you feel like there's a win or a scramble or a continue to play where it's all on Herbert's legs, and it really changes the game. I can't believe the Bears just scored, by the way.
But did they really?
Yeah, a 58-yard touchdown to Loveland with 17 seconds to go. 47-42. That's crazy.
Sounds about right for the Bengals.
Definitely. Oh, good for Caleb. Good for Colson Loveland, who does exist. That's good.
Yeah, they remember that he is on the team, so that's fun.
Yeah,
I think he has like entering today. He had like 8 targets or something like that.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah. Oh.
So I do want to highlight this a little bit in terms of the rushing offense. So Kamani Vidal ends up with 24 yards. I thought actually Jarrett Patterson had some really cool moments. So we could talk about the rushing offense in general here. What did you make of the way that Kamani and Jarrett Patterson and the offensive line and the non-Justin Herbert runs look today?
Right. It's all wrapped up and exemplified by one specific play, which is the opening play of the third quarter, which is like, I don't know, let's run it up the middle, and they go 3 and out. I don't know, and I think you tweeted this earlier in the game, where the outside stuff went. The great stuff, look, it was Hampton, okay, like maybe you have Hampton, that's why you do it, but then you go with Vidal, and that looks pretty good too. Where's the Trey Harris pulling, leading the way sort of stuff that was working for them and that had been working for them? Anything outside. And it's frustrating. I'll try to figure out what the rushing direction totals for this one, but I tweeted out the first Vidal big game against the Dolphins where he got to be the guy. They have 16 plays, towards the tackles or towards the tight ends, basically not straight behind Bradley Bozeman and whoever the guard is in Zion. And they were successful in that Dolphins game. Then they go against the Colts. Granted, they couldn't run it very much, but they had 4 runs, behind the tackles, behind the tight ends in that game. Not very good. Then against the Vikings, they have, I think, 16 or something like that, or 17 design runs, tackles, or tight end. Pretty good game from them. And then you go to a game like this, and I'm just watching them run this guy who's, if I ate 20 donuts, I'd be about the same size and weight as Kamani Vidal. And they're having this dude like, I'm sorry, that's a timeout. I'm sorry. If I bulked up with protein and got stronger and had
There you go.
muscle mass, my bad. Point is, I don't want to run up the middle, and I don't want to run up the middle at Tavondre Sweat. I don't want to run up the middle at Tavondre Sweat with Bradley Bozeman lead blocking for me. So I don't know why that seems to be so hit or miss with them with Vidal. He has such a skill set as a receiving option, as an outside option. I thought he did do some good things up the middle last week as well. Like between the tackles was some good things, but this is not a sustainable thing for him. Now, why did it work for Jarrett Patterson? I don't know. I'll have to watch. What he did looked fantastic. He had several first downs throughout the game. He looked good. And he's never really like not looked good. He's always been a preseason guy. So Vidal did not look great, but I don't think the stuff up the middle is just really his bread and butter in most cases.
Yeah, I think even there were certain times in the red zone where the Chargers want to they want to get the goon squad out there and they want to like establish the run at certain times. But I give the Chargers a lot of credit previously where, you know, they are able to get to the perimeter in those runs. So, you know, I'm not asking for them to like change their identity where, you know, you don't want to be physical and you don't want to like be, in those situations where you're in 12 or 21 or 22 personnel and you're able to get those extra yardages. But I feel like even like the counter plays to the outside went away. I feel like, you know, there were a few times last week where they would jet motion Darius or they would jet motion Trey Harris or somebody. You know, they've had a ton of success with that run where Zion Johnson will pull out or one of the other guards will pull to the perimeter and then Trey Harris is lead blocking right behind him. I don't think we saw that today. I don't think we saw a lot of Trey Harris blocking today, which is a little weird. There was a little bit more Keandre Lambert-Smith in the one receiver sets, which I thought was interesting. So I just feel like the approach from the run game was kind of like, hey, there's no Simmons, so let's try and dominate these guys. It's like, well, you still have Foster Sorrell and you still have you know, Bobby Hart, who obviously he gets injured, right? But like you still do not have like a great offensive line. This isn't, you know, when Michigan ran for like 23 straight plays against Penn State back in the day when they had, you know, the Joe Moore offensive line of the year and Blake Corum, those guys. That's like, you still don't have all your guys out here. So I think you should still be doing what kind of works here. There's obviously the trade deadline is on Tuesday, and there's still a lot of fans who think that they should go get Breece Hall or whatever. I think with Kamani Vidal, he's shown that he can be a really effective runner, but you have to use him the right way. And I don't think they used him the right way. And it makes sense that you don't want to, you know, use a 5'8", you know, 190-pound running back, whatever he weighs, as, you know, the same way you would use Najee Harris, who's 6'3" and 225. So I just think that you can have an effective run game with the limitations that Vidal and Patterson have, but you have to lean into the way that their strengths are. And I just don't think that Greg Roman and company did that today.
Yeah, he's not as good as Austin Eckler in his prime, but it's kind of the same discussion. Like, what are you going to do with Austin Eckler? Are you running him like Melvin Gordon, or are you playing him like Austin Eckler? And I think the way you play Austin Eckler is better receiver. But point is, you play him differently. So hopefully against the Steelers you can. Are you running straight up the middle against Benton and Hayward and everybody? I don't think there's really a good place to run against the Steelers. Seems like the middle of the field is their big vacancy, but got to figure out something else. It can't be this 2nd and 9. Then, okay, there's an incompletion. And now here we go. Yeah. Who's going to block their pass rush this week? Answer is nobody. So we'll see.
Yeah, Patterson is listed at 215. So I apologize for shortchanging our guy there a little bit. He's not 190. He is 215 pounds. So he is cut up, but let's still, like, he's an undersized back that is best suited on the perimeter. And, you know, heading into today, he was averaging about 9 yards per carry on the outside. So I think this is a situation where you just have to use him the right way. And that is how you can continue to get, you know, effective play out of Kamani Vidal. If you want to hit on a bright spot today, again, I think the young pass catchers for the Chargers, it was a bit of a weird day for Ladd McConkey, but 5 receptions, 68 yards for Oronde Gadsden. Quentin Johnston shows up again in a big day. I don't know if it feels a little weird calling him a young pass catcher, but 4 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown for Quentin. Couple of really big, important catches from Trey Harris, so 2 for 18, nothing crazy there. We got a Scott Matlock touchdown, which is definitely not on my bingo card. So what did you make of the way that group played for the Chargers today?
Yeah, I thought everybody did about what they needed to. I think in this game, it was nicely Quentin Johnston. I was a little worried, even though we knew it was coming back from an injury. Like, okay, is he the afterthought now? Are they looking for him? Is that positive? Was that stretch of positive plays just like a flash in the pan and here we go? But the 2 catches today were awesome. One, the throw by Herbert in the corner of the end zone was just awesome. But a great grab over the shoulder, a kind of difficult catch from QJ there, and the back shoulder catch from QJ. Just the stuff that we need to continue to see from him to continue to believe. And Herbert will lean into QJ if he can. So it's good that he seems to be back in a rhythm heading into Sunday Night Football against the Steelers. I know it's 2 catches, everybody. I've never seen Trey Harris do a bad thing catching a football. All right. Like everything, like, sure, he might finish the season with 30 catches. I don't know. Has any of them ever really been bad? I feel like every single one of them goes for a little bit more than it needs to. And it was actually pretty impressive and cool that in that high leverage situation to essentially close out the game, they have Keenan and Ladd McConkey over there with him too. And they're not running routes. They are purely there to get in the way of the defense and essentially force Trey Harris to beat some defensive back who's waiting one-on-one, not necessarily on the route, but to catch it and beat that guy and get that first down. And he didn't have it. And then it was just, okay, weight room. And this is a guy who is not a smaller individual. This is a bigger receiver. This is the most physical receiver I think that they have in terms of just the pure like physical specimen size of what he can do. QJ TBD. I wouldn't call him physical just yet. Trey Harris just kind of that power strong forward. Anyway, point is it worked. Please keep throwing it to him. Please find any way to get him involved. I've never seen him do something bad with it. He's not lining up off false starting or illegal formation like some people. He's that's my last shade at KLS. Get him the football some more. Gazin looks great. I think I hit the under on his targets because I didn't think they'd get to that many, but it was close again. Like it's not just a 1-hit wonder, 2-game wonder, 3-game thing. Gazin is here to stay as arguably their third or second most involved target. So overall, pretty good. McConkey had some good moments. Had some, I thought it was a drop initially, but that was a ball behind him from Herbert. And had another very good Herbert throw, but a drop by McConkey. It was fine. But I think they all mostly did as expected.
Yeah, I think some of the limitations from this group is obviously offensive line related, but it was a couple of puzzling drops in general for Ladd McConkey this year. Still has been extremely effective over the last few weeks in particular as he started to find his stride. Arande Gadsden, have you looked at his total stats yet?
For the season?
Yeah, so for the season, he entered today with 385 yards receiving. He had 68 today. He did not play the first 2 weeks. So if you just take his 6-game pace and then times it out to 17, his 17-game pace is over 1,000 yards receiving right now. So it's again, nobody's happier about this than Alex Dinsdorf is. But like watching him on tape against the Vikings, it was so impressive, man. Like he is absolutely just routing folks up. There were a couple of chances today where he could, have some yards after catch opportunities, and he was just not able to get them. But still, he just gives the Chargers offense a bit of a different gear, and it just really changes things. Like we were asking for last year and this year or the off seasons, I should say, for them to go find a tight end that they could truly feature and be able to use in the way that they have used, Vernon Davis and Mark Andrews and all these guys in this particular offense. And it seems like Arande Gadsden is trending in that direction.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go for it.
No, go ahead. I wasn't sure if you had anything else there, but
not much. Just, I'm glad that they continue to lean on him. They trust him and it's working for them. So, yay.
Yeah. We were going to talk about this in general, but Thomas Martinez pointing out that Chargers Chat podcast, shout out to the Chargers Chat guys. We've collaborated with them in the past. They're awesome. They were at the game today and they posted a video just now of Joe Alt walking on crutches. This is obviously his second ankle injury of the season. I believe it's the same ankle. Last time he was in a walking boot, but he went back on the sideline during the Giants game. Today we did not see that happen. It just sucks, man. I cannot recall a team dealing with the offensive tackle injury issues that the Chargers have all season long. Like every player who has played offensive tackle for the Chargers this year has now been injured because Bobby Hart also leaves this game injured. there's all the statistics that we pointed out, that the national people have done previously. The offense without Joe Alt is just drastically different. And you felt it like instant. There were a couple of pressures and hits early, but with Joe Alt out there, you're at least able to count on that one side. Now with Joe Alt potentially missing, we have no idea what this is going to be, but hypothetically speaking, I would be shocked at this point with him on crutches if he plays this week against the Steelers or the next week against the Jaguars. Granted, he came back earlier than a lot of people thought this time, but no Joe Alt for at least the next 2 weeks, man. Like, it just becomes that much more difficult for this team to get where they want to go. Austin Deculus has been injured recently. Trey Pipkins, Jamari Sawyer played today, but they've been hurt. Bobby Hart is now hurt. Rashawn Slater obviously has been hurt all season long. It just sucks, man. Like, just as soon as we finally feel like the offense is finally getting into a rhythm and finally getting a lot of their guys back, Alt is hurt again. So it's extremely frustrating. I'm sure nobody's more frustrated than him. The way that he can change this game is just so impactful for this team, but it's so frustrating dealing with another injury to another offensive tackle.
Yeah, I was talking to Jameson. For those who don't know, Jameson's been on the show before. He'll be a full doctor pretty soon. Or no, he officially is, if I'm not mistaken. But he said, and granted, this was just instant live, no knowledge of crutches or anything. He hopes it's just a bad sprain that he's back by the end of the season. That's kind of where Jameson was leaning in with this one. So initially, it didn't even look like, based on the review of the replay, he thought it was more of a post-bye, hopefully he's back by the end of the season thing. So I'll take his word for it. I'm sure there will be other Twitter doctors who try to chime in as well. But the point is, as you said, they have a bye and then they have the Raiders. But the 2 games before that are very critical.
The Raiders have Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz, man. It's not exactly.
They do. The Raiders are also the Raiders, so maybe there's
at least for now they have those 2 players, I should say.
Fair. We do have a couple days to go here for at least Crosby to maybe get out of there. But yeah, it's Bobby Hart. Daniel Popper said it was first we thought it was an ankle, and then it was reported it was his groin, and then I think it ended up being called both. At the end of the game, which is not great. So you finally find some stability, I guess, with Bobby Hart, who essentially got Trey Pipkins benched. And then now Trey Pipkins is out there. And then Jamari Sawyer. I mean, just disaster city. And we didn't even mention it yet, but Mekhi Becton did not play today. He could have, I think, based on the way the practices were trending. I don't mind that he didn't play so he can be ready for the Steelers game, but I assume he's going to be back for the Steelers game. I don't think he's going to play that full game because he hasn't really at all this year. Yeah. So you're looking at Jamari Sawyer, Zion Bozeman, Foster Sarrell, and Trey Pipkins next week against the Steelers. I don't know.
Yeah, people online were saying like, "Oh, just start Foster Sarrell over Mekhi Becton anyway, even when he's healthy." I think those conversations will go away after Foster Sarrell gave up like 6 pressures and 2 sacks to Sebastian Joseph Day, who we all know is not an effective pass rusher, but they need Mekhi Becton. Like I know that there's a ton of frustration. I'm right there with you. The only hope that the Chargers have of really like getting to a point where they can function as an offensive line is Mekhi Becton has to stay healthy going forward. We were kind of talking online today about, potentially like moving on from him and saving the $10 million and stuff like that. They need him back out there. Like, he needs to be healthy going forward. If you have Sawyer, Zion, Bozeman, Becton, and Pipkins for 2 weeks and you chip a lot of times and you double team, you max protect, I think you can like at least function to the point where you can get, mid-20s in each of the next 2 games. But without Joe Alt, man, the ceiling here is just so much lower. And we saw that come to play against a team like the Giants, who lost again today at home by like 3 touchdowns or whatever it ended up being. So the Chargers offense without Joe Alt is in a point where it's essentially Herbert hero ball. And thankfully they have a really deep collection of pass catchers at this point, but The offensive line injuries are just it sucks, man. And Herbert was hit again 11 times today, like I mentioned previously.
Yeah,
it's going to continue to get worse before it gets better without Joe Alt.
Yeah, so he was sacked 6 times today, but it was a tricky combination of things today. It was not just that the line was bad and therefore Herbert was sacked. I think there were maybe some more hits that were more on the line, but the sacks, there's a 2 sack sequence sort of towards the end of the game, and it's like Herbert walks into one of them, and then Herbert is like waiting, and nothing's open. It's a really tricky combination because the line wasn't playing great, but then why is Herbert holding on to the ball for 3.5 seconds? Okay, maybe that's a Herbert issue, but what the heck is open down the field? You know, I saw Kamani Vidal go out for a route. Was he not on 3rd and 18 or whatever it was? Like, was he not an option? Was he covered, or what's going on here with Kamani Vidal there? So it's a rough group right now. It's rough in terms of what Greg Roman is trying to call it. Is Herbert's not playing super great. Sometimes stepping up into sacks. So it's got to be better.
Yeah, the Titans entered today being like 20th in pressure percentage, and it was a lot higher today. So last time I had looked, it was about 45%, and PFF has taken that off now. So I don't know if that's just me, but 45% in a game where the Titans do not have Jeffrey Simmons and do not have Arden Key, who has entered today as their best pass rusher. That's a problem. So imagine if you had swapped out Jeffrey Simmons for Sebastian Joseph Day today, it would have been a lot worse. Thankfully, the Titans are like tanking and potentially holding him out right now. I don't really know what's going on. I think the offense can overall, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers front is really talented and they played great today. But that secondary is definitely gettable. So if you can pass protect with 6-7 blockers like you did against, you know, the Dolphins at times, like you did against the Vikings at times, I think you can at least function enough where you can still potentially win that game. Whether or not they can stop the run against the Steelers is a very different conversation. But the offense is just going to have to stick with that. Like Tucker Fisk is going to like just treat Tucker Fisk like he's a 6 offensive lineman and just have him out there on every single snap. I don't care if you want 5 people out in the route. Like you need Tucker Fisk to pass protect, double team, chip help, all that stuff as much as you possibly can. Because Draymond Jones and that group today, they looked like they were awesome, man. And you let TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and those guys get going, it's going to be a problem. So they have to make sure that they are keeping 6 people in protection going forward. Same thing against the Jaguars, man. Josh Hines-Allen, really good player. Trayvon Walker, really good player. Eric Armstead, really good player. So they blitzed Devin Lloyd a lot. You know, he's had some defensive player of the year hype, which as a Utah guy makes me really happy. But the Jaguars are very creative with their blitzes. So are the Steelers. Like you've got to wad things up way more than you did today. I don't feel like they did enough from a max protect standpoint today to keep Herbert clean.
No, they definitely regressed in terms of just the identification of certain stunts and things and whatnot. It was the tackle, or it was Zion, or it was the center. It was a very, very mixed bag for them today, where I felt like that had been tightened up. Tightened up. Nice. The first few weeks, thank you. Through the first few weeks of the season, and today it was just like, I don't know, just do this with the pass rusher I've never heard of before, but it's going to work. And so that was very disappointing to see the Chargers take a step, not just lose players, but take a step back in the mental processing regard again before they played the Steelers and Harmon and Watt and Highsmith and Herbert and Hayward and Benson and all these guys.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. All right, I want to end this recap talking about the positive, probably the most positive aspect of this game in terms of a overall sequence. So the Chargers come out from halftime. They go 3-and-out. The vibes are not great. The Titans are driving down the field. They end up going 11 plays, 71 yards. But at the end of that drive, you know, Derwin James nearly forces a fumble at the goal line on Chimere DK. The Titans have 2 plays from the 1-yard line. The Chargers stop them both on the 4th down situation. You have Elijah Molden, Denzel Perryman, Derwin James, all these guys making a super, super important game stop at that point. And it's one of those situations where, you know, can the Chargers actually take advantage of this goal line stop? Are they able to, you know, protect Herbert, run the football, everything like that? So the Chargers get this goal line stop and they proceed to have a 15-play 99-yard, 9-minute drive for a touchdown. At that point, it's 27-17. great drive response to the goal line stand. Justin Herbert, again, that's really where he started to run and kind of take the game over. Following drive, it's all Odafe Owe, 2 sacks back to back. Chargers force a 3 and out. That sequence, if you're a positive fan and you're looking for kind of the silver lining of today's game and like looking for the Jim Harbaugh Chargers experience, that's the sequence where you're highlighting. You get a goal line stand, you just eat the clock, take the soul from the Titans. Again, 9-minute drive, 15 plays, 99 yards. And then Odafe Owe comes back, 2 sacks back to back, ends that drive before it even begins. That to me was the sequence where I was like, okay, the Chargers are going to win today. And that is the sequence that I think the chart like best encompasses of like Jim Harbaugh's vision and his identity for what this team is. You get the big play, huge long drive, and then pass rush is just going to crush you. That to me is like the Harbaugh experience. And that was what ultimately won the Chargers the game today.
Yeah, really good call there with the Harbaugh experience. It reminds me of the Broncos game where I hated being at that stadium and watching that game, but suddenly it was stop, touchdown, stop, field goal, Chargers win it, game's over, beat the Broncos 3-0. And it was really not a great game, but you like the Harbaugh ball is, well, there's 60 minutes. And so as long as there's time and we have a chance, we're going to go for it. We're going to try to win. And so just like that last, it couldn't have been closer. Molden and Perryman on that stop, just tremendous. The interior defensive line got great push for them as is. I can't wait to watch that on film and watch that replay. But then Perryman, who had some very key plays in this game. I wish he had caught that ball for an interception. It was nice to have him making some plays out there, in particular in the run game. So, yeah, that I like that call, that shout out, just because it is that Harbaugh ball that you're looking for. And it's playoff football is what it really is. When it comes right down to it, you're on the road and you got to do something like this is it. Your season's on the line. Can you hold by the 3 inches, that were not there and they couldn't score? And then now that you have the football, are you going to run it 3 times at the middle and cave and curl and that's it? And then they get another chance? No, it was 20-17 at that point. And the Titans probably had the momentum at that point, or it felt like they could have captured some momentum to win that game.
Yeah.
And for them to just go all the way down the field, but then stop them right there at the half-inch yard line was so great to see. So, yeah, the defense, Owe, as you mentioned, Owe's got 4 sacks in 4 games now after not having any with the Ravens to start the season. And it was not like against the Dolphins. It wasn't like, oh, that's a really cool like effort play. You block a tight end, you go get Tua who's scrambling, and there's a sack. The first one was great, and the spin move on the second one was fantastic too. Like these
nasty.
They were like, oh, okay, that's the pass rush moves. And you had mentioned you had gone back and watched some Owe games, and you mentioned, I don't remember if you mentioned spin move, like the cross chop and all the stuff he could do that essentially Bud Dupree and maybe Caleb Murphy, but Bud Dupree definitely was not doing. That's been on display. I think if you go back and you log the 4 sacks that Owe has had, there's a little bit of something different in each of those that really paints a picture of a better pass rusher.
Yeah, so Owe in his 4 games as a Charger has led the team in pressures twice. He's up. He had 4 pressures today, the 2 sacks. He had a pass rush win rate of 26.7%, according to PFF, that's really freaking good. For reference, that's like top tier in the league right now. So I don't think he's like a perfect player. JLM points out that he had 3 run stops. I'm not able to see if that is true or not. But I think he's playing the run a little bit better than he is given credit for. But you mentioned it. It's just a pass rush arsenal, man. Like you have a nice rip move on the first sack, the spin move on the second one. There was another cross chop in there where you got pressure on Cam Ward. Ravens fans and Odafe Owe like draft critics were trying to tell me that this guy had no pass rush moves in his bag, and I'm like, I watch Bud Dupree on a weekly basis. That's a guy who has no pass rush moves in his bag. Yeah. Owe can get it, man. Like he can absolutely, have this pass rush bag. Plus, he's got the speed to power rush, which is really nice. So he's a good player. Yeah. I think again, it's only been 4 games on the Chargers, but if he continues to keep this pass rush productivity up, you have Khalil and Tuli who can do a lot of the dirty critics. Hello, the dirty critics. Alex is in the chat saying critics, but a lot of the dirty work. And then Owe comes in on 3rd downs and just gets after it. I think it's a really nice setup for him. And yes, I used to be a draft critic, but I have since given that up is what I meant by the draft critics. So Owe has been a very positive player for the Chargers right now.
Yeah, he has. And it's a really, really nice fit. If the run defense is not there, would like it to be, and perhaps that could, continue to develop because I think he's looked better every week. But if Thule and Mack are your more run defense guys, and then you also have Owe on third down, hey, good stuff. That is a nice trio there. And it just really gives you a glimpse into what Minter could do if he actually had some investment in his defensive front. All respect to Caldwell and Bud Dupree and Junior Colson, but you give this guy someone with real talent. Again, no offense. It starts to look like that. You give him a defensive tackle who's maybe a higher draft pedigree, maybe a linebacker, safety. I don't know, or not safety, defensive back. I don't know. What Owe is doing is a good pitch to continue to invest in this defense for Minter.
Yes, and giving him somebody with premium resources, premium draft asset, I think is kind of what we're hinting at there. So, so the Chargers in this sequence, I think, did enough. But you mentioned it, the goal line sequence. If they had given up that touchdown, the Titans would have had the lead there. It would have been 24-17, or 24. No, it would have been 24-20. Excuse me. So Chargers very much needed that goal line stop, and lives would have been very different if they had given up that touchdown. So I think that ultimately did save the game for them. All right, Tyler, any other final thoughts on this game before we get to some super chats?
No, let's jump into them.
All right, sounds good. Before we get there, our audio audience is going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with these super chats and some more other discussions. All right, Andrew Murray, kick us off here, says petition to call the version of the tush push the Herbie heave. Okay, interesting. He says the bolt bump sounds like an STD. It absolutely cannot be the bolt bump. I hated that as soon as that came out of Ross Tucker's mouth. The Charger charge also from whoever, I forget whoever the broadcast guy was. I forget his name, but he brought up Charger charge. Hate that. We kind of pitched the power surge and beer run to the fans, and at least on our chat, they voted for power surge. You're continuing to do the beer run, which I like the beer run better, to be clear.
Yeah.
But I've kind of been choosing the power surge because that's what the fans went with. But yes, I whatever we decide, we need to decide like a new name. And I think if you and I want to just do beer run, I'm cool with it. But I thought everybody liked the power surge, so that's what I went with. But
Herbie heave is when your Volkswagen breaks down, you got to push it up a hill. So that's the Herbie heave. Herbie the love bug, for those who don't know. And the bolt bump sounds like you're doing a line and gas lamp, so not that one either. So Charger charge is stupid. Bolt bump cannot happen. I like power surge. I don't mind if it's power surge. Beer run's fun, but again, it could be temporary, and you can't go on the broadcast and be like, it's another beer run. Like this beer run has been sponsored.
They can't call it beer run, but we can.
Yeah, sure. Right. We can. But power surge can be like a universal, I don't know, if I have kids, it's like that beer run. I don't know if I want my kids to be saying beer run. So fine. Power surge is good.
Yeah. You have to be up on the Madison beer stuff, which CBS was apparently up, man.
Yes.
After the Quentin Johnson played, they scored that touchdown. They played the Yes Baby song on the way out. So CBS kind of knows their stuff, I guess. But CBS calling it a beer run, I don't think that's going to fly. But I prefer a beer run just because I think it's funny. The thing about this play for the Chargers is that, not to gas up your guy, but one of the main reasons that it's successful as it
gas him up.
Is because of Trey Harris, man. So Trey Harris lines up as the player directly behind Herbert, and he's a few yards behind Herbert. Whereas the Eagles tush push, there's somebody right behind Hurts. So the line and like the wing backs and Herbert, they're all pushing. And then Trey Harris comes in after the initial push to give them a second surge. So that to me can kind of give, again, gas up Trey Harris like that if you want. But that to me gives credence to the surge part of power surge because it's not really like the tush push is just like everybody just like it's a wave of push. Whereas with the Chargers, it's kind of like an initial push and then Harris comes in to like seal a deal.
Yeah. The beer run can almost seem like the scrambles, like the longer plays, the specific short area stuff does feel like power surge. So let's do that.
Power surge for me. Yeah. I think I've convinced myself now.
Sounds good. Power surge sounds fine. And if you want to name it after Trey Harris too, that's also fine with me. You want to call it.
the Harris.
Nothing.
I got nothing there. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Expos fans agrees with you that the beer runs are the scrambles. I think that's fair.
Yeah. I like it.
All right, next one in here from True Blue says weird way to spell Power Surge. So he's a fan of Power Surge. We'll have to do another poll on Twitter, on YouTube, and get exactly where the fans are at with that. But if you have any other names that you guys like, if you want Herbie Heave or whatever,
No, you don't.
let me know and we'll put it into the poll. But I think Power Surge is probably the one that I'm rolling with right now.
Yeah.
Daddy Don't Pull Out says the one Herbert interception in the first worth the Herbo highlight throws later on. Also, I blame turf for injuries. So that Herbert interception was weird, man. Like he completely stared Keenan Allen down the whole way, and like you just can't do that in the NFL. And Cody Barton, shout out Utah legend, is not even that good of like a coverage linebacker. Like you do that against, Roquan Smith or Fred Warner, and they pick it off, like whatever, you go do that. Deon Henley, whatever. A guy like Cody Barton should not be getting a pick six on you. I'm sorry, as much as I like my guy and played against him in high school, but that should not be a play that Cody Barton makes in an NFL game.
Sounds like Steven has some unresolved beef with Cody Barton from high school.
He was an asshole as a basketball player, I can tell you that.
Oh, man. Oh, lovely.
Good family, though. Good family, the Bartons.
Just not him.
Sergio says, folks, I think you are overreacting here. Yeah, it was sloppy, but at the end of the day, our D let them score only 6 points. Rest was pure luck, he says.
Nothing can really be luck. Well, I don't know. It wasn't luck, though. The special teams have been an issue for a while. Herbert throwing the pick six was just stop, stare, no foot movement, thunk, pick six. So, yeah, but I don't know about luck. I don't think the Chargers can be unlucky, but I don't think I don't know. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I don't think it's a 70-yard punt return is not luck. That's a lot of execution that goes into that. We just talked about the pick six. The defense, I think, played well for the most part. Obviously, they got the goal line stop. They had some sacks. They had a couple of positive things, but the Titans, I think, are just bad. And we kind of talked about that at the start, where it just feels like the Chargers left a lot of meat on the bone today. Rick H. Town says, have we seen the last of Pipkins? Bobby Hart has been impressive on the line. Any chance we pull off a JPJ trade? That part, no. I mean, in-division trades are becoming a little more common, and obviously the Browns just traded Joe Flacco to the Bengals in division, which is crazy to me. I think it's a little bit different with the Raiders and the Chargers. I don't think the Raiders are going to trade a potentially like trading Flacco within division. I don't think that matters. Flacco's probably not going to be on the Bengals next year, so who cares? You're going to trade potentially the future starting center to the Chargers. Like I don't think that's going to happen. So that part, no. I do think the Bobby Hart stuff, it's been like he's played commendably, but they were helping him a ton heading into today. They did not provide him a lot of help, or Pipkins a lot of help today. But they were doing a lot of double teams, chipping, things like that. Like he was only really truly one-on-one like 10 or 15 times a game. And, he deserves credit for not allowing pressures in those moments. But I don't think Bobby Hart's play is making me feel like I'm never going to see Trey Pipkins play again. And Hart is injured. We have no idea how long he's going to be out. So Pipkins is going to be back at right tackle, and we'll see how that goes. But obviously the Chargers were confident in him enough to leave him as the only swing tackle heading into the season. They've been confident enough of him last year where they handled him the right guard job despite never playing guard. And so I think they'll be confident in him again going forward.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it just kind of has to be him. Bobby Hart doesn't look like he'll come back anytime soon, so I think it's just him. And the more we get into the season, the more Steven's like B- grade for the draft is starting to make more sense.
Yeah, I forgot.
Although to be fair, Gadsden has been playing like
Gadsden is way better than I thought it would be. So if I knew back then that Gadsden was going to be this, I would have said probably like an A-. But yeah,
yeah.
Offensive line stuff though, we're a long way away from the offseason, but there's there's going to be some discussions had about how the Chargers handle this going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Andrea Shun with a big super chat here with a simple "We did it."
Mm-hmm.
I know we've been very negative today, but the Chargers are 6-3. They have an opportunity over the next couple of weeks to kind of not clinch a playoff spot, but really, make some strong push towards the playoffs. So we'll see what happens today. But it's just a lot of the same issues, I think, are why we're so discouraged.
Yeah, definitely. I need the Broncos to slip up and just lose a game normally like they deserve to the last few weeks. The Jets barely, Giants, whatever that was. Today, they barely scraped by. I need them to lose a game. Unfortunately, they play the Raiders twice in the next 4 weeks.
Sick.
So they'll be 9 and then at least a 9-win team at least in 4 weeks.
Yeah, barely beating Davis Mills today. Love that for us.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, God.
CJ Stroud, I think, left like the second quarter with a concussion. So.
Yeah. Jeez.
Lou God says bigger issues, but am I wrong to be concerned about the interceptions? Herbert's on pace for the highest rate of his career. Can't be all blamed on the tips. So I think like today was a very clear interception.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of other ones, but I mean, like at least 4 of them are tipped passes that are like kind of freak plays. So not that PFF is perfect by any means, but I think this is a big reason why I like the turnover worthy plays stat that they have.
Yeah.
So it'll be 5 after today, but entering today, he only had 4. He only had 6 turnover worthy passes on the season, and he was tied for 3rd in lowest percentage of his passes. So I'm not all that concerned about his overall interception number. I think, again, if half of your interceptions are tipped passes at the line, I don't really care. His interception against the Broncos was a little frustrating. Today was definitely very frustrating. He definitely got lucky last week where Metellus or whoever that was, or I guess it was Isaiah Rodgers, dropped that pick 6. So I'm a little concerned, I guess, about some of the staring down decision making, but I'm Justin Herbert is Justin Herbert. I don't think we need to be like, he has an interception problem kind of season.
No, definitely not an interception problem. My only concern, other than that it's been so frequent this year, is just because it's a tipped pass thing, or today he stared down Keenan Allen, the defense read it. Are we getting to a point where it's a tendency issue? Is there something that defenses are keying up on and they know when to get their hands up or when to do this, when to do that? Has it mostly always been to the right this year into a specific area? I don't know. So that's my only concern, is if defenses are going, if we just do this and this and this, we can kind of get him into a spot where he might force it, or we know we can put our hands up, bat the ball down. I don't know. Otherwise, no, not really.
I think it's kind of a double-edged sword where last year he only throws the 3 picks and then 4 in the intercept in the postseason, which again, 2 of those were bullshit interceptions. But
sure.
Like last season, I think there was he was so much more cautious with the football. And this year he's definitely taking more chances. So it's kind of a double-edged sword where you want the guy to be, taking more chances, but as long as the interceptions are not like causing the team to lose, I don't know if I care that much about it.
Yeah.
Steven Saba wants to know how much blame does Herbert deserve for the sacks, though. We've talked a little bit about that, but did you have any other thoughts there?
I think that I'm guessing in this case too, like the rate is probably pretty good for him compared to like the raw frequency of the plays. Seems like every other game there's one where he steps up into it, but there's also 40 other scrambles in a game where he's just surviving, and the numbers are just he eventually will step into a sack because he's trying to avoid 13 other ones throughout the game. So I feel like the rate of which he's doing this is not as bad as the frequency looks.
Yeah, I think Jacob Arnold points overall the sacks and the interceptions, like this all has to do with how much he's being pressured. Again, hit 11 times today. Were a couple of those his own fault? Probably. The one where Patterson was pass protecting against Gray, that one to me is definitely Justin Herbert's fault. There are a couple other ones, throughout each game where, can he step up? Can he fade a little bit? Yes, I think that's a fair criticism of Justin Herbert. But with the amount of times they are passing and the amount of times he is being pressured, it's a little kind of, again, it's not completely not his fault, but there are definitely some circumstances that provide, more justification for where he's at. Like,
Yeah.
people who are Justin Herbert critics will point to the Giants game and it's like, well, this is why he's not an elite quarterback or whatever the case may be. But it's like he was pressured on 60% of his dropbacks that day. Like, I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You could be Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. You're not going to look good when you are pressured that frequently. So this is all it just kind of snowballs. You have more sacks, more turnovers when you're getting pressured at this kind of rate. And I think it's a good point from Jacob.
Yep.
Lugod does say that the PFF stat is solid and does make him feel better. So,
yeah, I do love the turnover worthy play rate stat. It's one of my favorites to use for theirs, just because it really tells you, interception versus is he putting the ball in harm's way, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, and sometimes that can give you some indication for somebody who's due for more interceptions in the future. So,
yeah,
theoretically, if Herbert has had 4 interceptions from batted passes at the line, like the interception against the Colts, how often do you really see an interception go like straight up into the air and the defensive lineman is just able to just like chill and catch that pass? That's not very common. The Dexter Lawrence interception, not very common. So it gives you some confidence that the interception number total should come down. It's not somebody who is consistently putting the ball in harm's way, even though like he did have the pick 6 today. But this is not like, I can look up this list again really quickly if PFF can load for me. So Spencer Rattler, for example, 17 turnover worthy passes. He only threw 4 interceptions, and obviously the Saints have benched him. But that's a guy who you think, okay, if he keeps playing, he's going to throw more interceptions. Tua, 16 turnover worthy passes. He has 11 interceptions. So it just kind of, not trying to dunk on Tua, but just trying to show how that stat can indicate, okay, Herbert only has 6 on the season despite leading the league in pass attempts. So his interception number total should come down eventually once these other, freak tip passes are kind of not going or going to his way instead of going against him.
Yeah, definitely. But as Thomas Martinez points out, you can't win the game if you lose the game. And to win the game, you have to play to win the game. And Justin Herbert wants to win the game and plays to win the game so they don't lose the game.
Yes, very well said.
Did you see that Mike McDaniel? That was a Mike McDaniel quote, essentially.
Yeah.
Who they're going to keep around? Maybe.
Yeah. I don't see what firing the GM does for you at this point in time, but if they want to send over, I don't even know who's playing offensive line for them right now.
I don't know who's left. Anybody?
I don't know. Kevin Zeiler, come back on the plane though, my guy.
Yeah,
you don't have to stay there in Tennessee anymore.
I guess go for it.
Our last one from the real Ricky Tan. Nice. Herbert running through a defender, then throws the perfect back shoulder to QJ on the next play. Wow, that was an incredible sequence from Justin Herbert for sure.
Yeah, just physical talent, arm talent, you name it. So that was fantastic.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, it was a great Herbert running game, man. It really was. Okay, I think that is it. Unless we have another one.
I do want to bring up, just because we're not going to have a trade targets show, so kind of a wrapping things up before we just cover the outcome of it.
Sure.
Rybread's asking, does the team have to make a move before the deadline for offensive line help, or do they ride it out? More from just a prediction standpoint, I don't think they make a move for an offensive lineman unless Alt is out for the season. That's not because I don't think they need to. It's because I just do not believe the Chargers will.
Do they need to? Yes, I think they should. I think the Chargers did okay getting Austin Deculus and Foster Sorrell. Like, it's better than doing nothing. But you can't just keep trotting those guys out. And, I do think Deculus has been given a little bit of an unfair shake where he gets like no help and Bobby Hart gets all the help. But there are some options out there where you can send, a 2027 pick for somebody who can come in and help you now. I think you have to do that, even if it's not somebody who's going to start. We've talked about Evan Neal a couple of times on this show. Some people have asked about Cesar Ruiz, who his name popped up on stuff. He's far too expensive. His contract is just not workable right now. I do think if I had to guess which is more likely, I would say they trade for a running back than it is for an offensive lineman. Hassan Haskins also on injury reserve right now, and I don't think you can continue to do the whole Kamani Vidal, Jarrett Patterson thing. I think Patterson played well today, but I think you do need some more help there, and it's easier to find those guys. But should they do an offensive line trade? Yes, absolutely. But I just don't know if there's really one out there that they're going to like love and, start over Jamari Sawyer kind of thing. I don't think that's out there. But can they go get like a new backup guard? Yeah, I think they can go do that.
Yeah, you're looking for your Austin Deculus. If you're a Chargers fan, that's probably where they're going for. I'll be stunned if they find a starter out there.
Yeah.
Or decent backup swing guy.
Yeah, a starter is not happening. We've said this over and over again. Teams do not trade starting linemen. And people have brought up the Browns and like, are the Browns gonna, trade Wyatt Teller or Ethan Posich or whatever? Jay Glazer came out and said that the Browns are actively trying to acquire talent right now. They're not tanking. They're trying to acquire talent. So there's just starting offensive linemen are not available. It's just not something that happens. So, this is a situation where they do need some help, and hopefully they can go get kind of a backup guard situation. Like they're back to the point where you have Trey Pipkins and Jamari Sawyer starting. It's not the worst place to be in from a backup standpoint. But they need some help at guard because Foster Sorrell, man, like if you're giving up 6 pressures to Sebastian Joseph Day, like it's just not a good situation. So Thomas Martinez points out Tevin Jenkins on the Browns. I think that can make sense. We wanted them to sign him, but it is what it is. So backup guard will help, but it will not. They're not going to find a starter. That part is just not happening.
No, that backup will end up being a starter because someone will go down, but they're not going to find a starter.
Yes. Okay, so Adam Schefter tweeted out 14 minutes ago, Joe Alt is believed to suffer another high ankle sprain. Only this time it could require a procedure to repair. Alt will undergo an MRI on Monday to confirm the diagnosis on the same right ankle he injured earlier this season.
Well, that's going to do it for us today, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend.
A surgery means like he's out for like 8 weeks. Like that's like potentially season ending.
Yeah, that's you better make the playoffs if you want to see Joe Alt again kind of deal.
Yeah.
And they got to go finish the game in Denver. The season in Denver.
Yeah. Could require a procedure, man. That sucks.
My only optimism here is that Joe Alt just freak recovers because he does.
Yeah. So
there's some hope there, or he pulls a whoever name veteran player who plays through pain. But yeah, so not until after the bye at minimum. Probably not for the Raiders game. I don't know. That ultimately almost kills your season there because this is kind of the wonky part of their schedule. The back half of this, last I checked, Will Anderson had a pass rush win rate of like 38% or something stupid. Max Crosby, not Mike Parsons, forgive me. Cowboys defensive line, the Texans, the Broncos defensive line. You got to play the Chiefs again.
Yep.
It sucks. It sucks.
That sucks, man.
Oh, it stinks.
It's like I said earlier, I just can't recall a team being this snake bitten at one particular position like this. It's just to go from entering the season, Slater and Alt and Pipkins, like that's a objectively insanely good offensive tackle room.
Yeah.
And now we're dealing with unhealthy version of Pipkins, Jamari Sawyer, and Austin Deculus being your tackle room. Like sucks, man. It sucks.
No, it's like they're cursed or being punished for not investing more in the offensive line. So it's like, oh yeah, you don't want to add more offensive linemen? Well, I guess you better. You should have. There's your learning experience right there. Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like I said, man, Tucker Fisk, 6 offensive linemen. Like, let's make it happen. Just
You
camp
have
him
to.
next to the tackles, and
Yeah.
you just can't roll into these games trying to do straight drop back stuff again.
No. We can start keeping Will Dissly active, hopefully, because Conklin got someone killed on special teams today. And
Did he really?
Yeah, there was a play where someone got hit like the 20 or something, and it was Conklin's guy. I'm like, who's 83? Oh yeah, that's Tyler Conklin. That's the tight end that I was starting. Yeah, he's just get Will Dissly, Fisk, fine if it's Matlock too, and just call it. Just go for it for a week at least.
Yeah. Apparently, Cam Little just had a 68-yard field goal. That's insane.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
All right. That is going to do it for us today. So Tuesday, if the Chargers make a trade, we will talk about it. If they don't, we will do our usual film review episode. So we'll make sure you guys are posted there. Tyler and I will be at this upcoming game against the Steelers. Brooke and I are making a weekend of it because it's a holiday weekend. So we're going down to Disneyland, and we will have a bit of a different schedule again next week. So bear with us. But this upcoming week, we'll be back to our usual Tuesday, Thursday episode schedule. So we appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.